problem with regulations is that we tend to think of them in terms of the rhetoric that policymakers use to sell them to us, right? So it's usually in terms of safety or something like that. But what a regulation really is, if you look at it, is it's a restriction, right? The government is basically saying that, excuse me, that you cannot do this thing or you cannot do it in this way. That's the only thing that a regulation is, right? Or maybe the opposite, that if you want to do this, you have to do it this particular way, which means that any regulation automatically um, prohibits entrepreneurship right there, right? So anything that is restricted, well, you're not going to see a whole lot of novelty, a whole lot of innovation in that space. You might see some innovation in trying to get around the regulation, but that is value created because value has already been taken away because of the regulation. So um, it's it's important to realize what a regulation is to begin with, and then you can pretty soon see how regulations affect supply as well, because it does distort the economy, it does distort supply.
The famous example is Heinz ketchup. They came up with a way to transport their ketchup and refrigerate it without having these preservatives, and then so the government went on to ban the preservatives, which gave them a window of a virtual monopoly.
Well, sure. I mean, and this is one of those where the rhetoric seems to be in favor of consumers, right? It seems to shift production to what consumers should have: healthier food, no preservatives, and all this stuff. But what you're missing is that if you can't produce with preservatives, you also cannot innovate using preservatives. There might be new goods and services that are much more valuable to consumers that might require, at least in the first stage, preservatives to make it at all marketable. Now, if you prohibit it, as was the case here, then you're not going to see these new products at all because entrepreneurs cannot innovate those. Or if they can, maybe they can do it only by skipping that first stage, which would potentially fund going to the second stage, right? So the bar is much higher for other entrepreneurs. And of course, then you have the incumbent, in this case, Heinz, um, who benefit a lot because suddenly their competition is outlawed. So they're making a lot of more money. They're basically a protected monopoly because government is trying to save consumers. And we all know that monopoly, a protected one, does not really serve consumers very well, right? They get fewer goods at higher prices. So we lose at both ends, right? So ketchup prices are higher than they otherwise would be, and we're not seeing new types of ketchups or other types of products that would have emerged otherwise, right? And if you regulate a market space, you're not going to get the new. So you're not going to get entrepreneurs in innovating a new type of good and figuring out a new way of doing things. So basically, what Uber did to taxi cab companies, right? So they were regulated. They were, I mean, dirty cars, hardly ever available, high prices, and so forth. And Uber didn't. They didn't compete head to head with them. They didn't start a taxi cab company with an app. What they did was, let's try a different type of service and do this in a very different way. So we're not competing with them directly. We're competing for their customers, sure, but we're competing with offering a new type of service that is that we think in a way is much more valuable to the consumer, and that of course completely changed the market structure. And that's the issue with these studies. Which, I mean, I agree with the study. Regulations, they make things much more costly, especially for those who are not very well off already. But what we're not seeing here is the unrealized, all those goods and services that would have emerged had it not been for these regulations. And those goods and services are usually much more valuable. They're usually much more accessible. They're much cheaper considering the value you get for them. So they help uh, exactly those people who are harmed by the regulation. If you start asking regulators and policymakers what is the deal here, they will say, "Oh, we need to regulate this." And this is what they did to Uber, right? That you
Yeah, yeah.
cannot operate in our town because we have not properly regulated this space yet, right? So, I mean, we don't really talk about this very much when I teach entrepreneurship, because we start with the value for the consumer. And if you are a disruptive, innovative business, then that's awesome. right? But the value to the consumer is number one, and then you start the business, and of course you need to follow the law and all this stuff. But if it's unclear, well, that might be an opportunity. It might also be a potential cost, and that's something that you will need to figure out as an entrepreneur if it's worth it or not.
Hello, I'm Anthony Coleman. Thank you for watching this clip. If you enjoyed this clip from my show, you can click in the upper right-hand corner to see the full episode, or you can click in the upper left-hand corner to see other clips. Thank you and welcome to the Economic Circus.